Hey there, everybody. Welcome to week 12 here. We're kind of shifting this ideas of empires and movements. Um, cool, I guess, bringing things together um, into East Asia now. So China and Japan, China and Japan primarily. Sorry, I'm a little sick. That's why I haven't gotten back to your discussion posts yet. I'll get back to them. Try to get them by the end of the week. I'm a little out of it, but charging through, getting back in the world here. But so China, just kind of like China's always been an important part of the world, and hopefully this lecture kind of explains a little bit about how it did that, how it maintains sort of these imperial structures and dynasties, and the importance of scholar bureaucrats, the emphasis of Confucianism is a major part of that. That you have this Sui dynasty sort of combines the first sort of unification of China since the Han, and then also creates the Grand Canals. It's the first time that the North and South are really united. And then that ushers in this very high period of art and culture, and sort of the golden age, if you will, of China in the Tang period. And I gave you those um, poems from Li Bao and Du Fu. Take a look at those. I mean, poetry. It's what kind of ideas, images are they expressing? What can we take from these sort of very small collection, and kind of what does it mean to live in this Tang world? And again, I think the discussion post for this week is you can either pick Tang China or um, uh, Japan, and just put yourself in there. What if you were a scholar bureaucrat in Tang China? What would your life be like? I think you can pull that out from the lectures there. Um, so talked about China, and then the Song Dynasty is the last one, and that's a lot of major advancements that have profoundly shaped the entire world. Things like writing, printing presses, gunpowder, paper money, these kind of things that we use all day or in our daily life. Were kind of originated in China and then spread, was diffused along the Silk Road. Another example of the production or transmission of people, products, and ideas there. And then also China's influence, very influential in Korea and Vietnam, two areas we really haven't focused too much about. But Korea, its history traces back as far back as Shang China. There's people been living there. There's like sort of this three emperors kingdoms period, and out of there the Silla kingdom emerges, defeats the other ones, and then kind of makes alliances with the Tang world. Vietnam kind of again sort of at some points is autonomous, and then at other points it's very much part of this Chinese world, and particularly Tang, when China is imperial, it's expanding in there. And then the influence of Tang China and Japan is very influential as well. We see that in the Nara period and in the Heian period. I also talked about Mahayana Buddhism, sort of this new phase of Buddhism that comes up, which is very popular in China today and in Japan. A little bit different than Theravada, which is more based more on like the teachings of the Buddha, or traditional, if you will. I guess you could say, if we wanted to use um, language of religious language, Theravada is more orthodox, or Mahayana is a little more heterodox. Comes up with some new ideas of things like bodhisattvas, and that and that you don't need text or anything to achieve enlightenment. You can do it on your own through your own mindfulness, which is very popular in Chan Buddhism. Then becomes very popular in Zen. I gave a video about Zen Buddhism in as well, and that's sort of the foundation of Zen is what comes up through this Mahayana thing. And then it gets us into Japan as well, where Japan is very much interconnected with China, with the influence of Buddhism, but also state structures that ultimately reside in its Heian period of Japan, which is its golden age, its cultural renaissance, which you see through literature, the court life as well. I think the lecture talks about all of that, all of the stuff that's going on in Japan. The capital is now Kyoto, which will remain the capital of Japan for the next 1,000 years. Um, and then the reading from that is the Tale of Genji, which is a very popular, very famous text, epic, throughout the world. And in the story, hopefully you kind of got the gist of it. The first chapter is about Genji's life in the court, kind of gives you some court dynamics. And the second reading is chapter 4, a very famous episode where Genji goes out to go visit a friend of his, and then he sees this woman, and this is kind of a lot of what Genji does, and they go and they end up having a tryst, but she ends up dying. Um, and then yeah, and then Genji is kind of like, oh shucks, and then like he's very affected by it, but he moves on with his life. But it gives you kind of an idea of who Genji is and the dynamics going on there. And a lot of the tale of Genji is this is sort of looks into the dynamics of the Heian court life, the Heian world. So those are those. And again, for your discussion post for this week, be a little creative. Pick one or two of those. Sorry, pick one of those. Either there's two options, either Tang China or Heian Japan. And just put yourself there a little bit. What would life be like? And then use a quote from one of those respective readings in your response as well. And I'll try to get your responses from last week caught up soon. That's all I got right now. Have a good rest of your week.